Hello, everybody. I am Abdi Lajavadi. I am the CEO of Pro Education Group. And some of you have seen our program, Education for a Better World, and maybe some of you are seeing it for the first time. In this program, I invite variety of different individuals from around the world to come in and share their perspective on all kinds of issues that relates to education, how we can create a better environment for people in different schools, different settings, and how we can develop a better environment for education. And today I have a wonderful guest. Mr. Chris Nielson is a world famous, consultant, thought leader, great management consultant and educator. And I'm delighted to have Chris with us today. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Abdi. It's great to be here with you. I love to be of service to the world in any way I can, and I love your mission.
Thank you. Thank you. I am really delighted to have you as a guest here today because I know I've talked to you before. I have been inspired by you. And I think we have a great, wonderful program for our audience today. Why don't we start to learn about Chris? Tell us about you, where were you born, what we can learn about you as a person.
All right. Once upon a time, I was a baby. And actually, I was lucky as a kid in many ways. I had a lot of love shined into me, especially by my mother and my grandparents. It was a phenomenal amount of love. And I'm also blessed to have a father who was constantly critical. I do see now that that is love today. I didn't feel it at the time. But he involved me in adult conversations. We had some of our conversations were more like competitions, or as other people would call them, arguments, that I never won one of them, but he involved me in them. And I did feel important to him in some ways, but I always felt not good enough. And today I realize that's a program that the whole world puts out, this I'm not good enough program. I got involved in entrepreneurship at a very young age. In middle school, I bought Bubble Yum and Bubblicious and was selling that to my classmates. And in high school, I realized the sound and light show for high school dances. They got paid every week. I could get to go to a high school dance where my buddies would go while I was playing basketball or baseball. And then I'd come back and we'd get paid to do the high school dance. And I sold every club in my school except for maybe two of them. And so that was a business there. Then college came about and actually stopped being entrepreneurial. I thought it wasn't the place, but I realized today, I wish I would have gone after the entrepreneurial aspect of things there. But I looked at what worked for me educationally, and I love teachers. I love educators because you get a chance to be a hero all day long. And I know some that made a huge difference in my life. And I know there's others that make a huge difference every day. My mom, I said this to Yabdi earlier, at my 20-year reunion, about a dozen kids came up to me with various things. Your mom saved my life. Your mom, the reason I got off drugs and alcohol. Your mom's the reason I graduated. Your mom's the reason I became a teacher. Your mom's the reason I became a high school counselor, just like she was. And she is a phenomenal human being. I mean, amazing. And I wanted to be more like her. I wanted to give more to the world. And that's really my mission today. Give as much as I can to the world. Help other leaders, thought leaders, human beings. The recipes and things I share actually would have made my life easier when I was younger. So that's a lot in a little.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. One of the things that, you talk to many of the individuals, the CEOs and the groups that you, in a sense, share your ideas and your, services to, is about how to build an efficient team, how to create a successful business, right? And education really is a business. Now, it doesn't matter it's public or it's private, but it's a business. If we don't do a good job, we're not going to have customers. So in a sense, how would you share with others what are the concepts that we can engage in building our businesses, our centers to be more customer oriented, student focused, and help us to learn how we can be better.
Well, that's such a big question, but I want to take a few angles into it. One of it is a compass question I talk about. Are you connecting or are you disconnecting? Are you connecting or are you disconnecting? What I mean by that is when we connect to people, they want to go the extra mile, or if you're international, extra kilometer for you, or even extra 10 miles or 10 kilometers for you, even when you're not looking, when you're really connected to someone, especially heart connected. Now, when you're disconnected, they'll do the bare minimum. They'll actively sabotage. They'll look for other situations. So as a teacher, as a leader, one of the best questions you could ask yourself is, how can I better connect with my students, with my employees, with the parents, with my clients, with my family members? How can I better connect? Or even from the other angle, how am I disconnecting? Even write a list. What are the things I do that disconnect? And when you do that, and you can eliminate some of the things you do to disconnect and it increases some of the things you can connect. And one of the big things I talk about in a recipe, share a 6-part recipe that is inspired by improv comedy that creates incredible collaboration, really engaged collaboration, which is a level of engagement beyond most, which have you all in it together, setting up other people to succeed. That is so powerful in that safe environment that is created that you can learn so much faster. And I said, should you have play in your organization? Yes, only if you want to learn 5 times faster, I believe at least, and retain at least 2 times as much. So if you want to boost the level of learning, if you actually care about how much they get, bring play in, because they're going to remember it better and they're going to retain it so much longer. So that's a little bit of what I'd share there. Any directions you want to go, take me from there?
Thank you. I believe, as we have talked about, creating fun in any kind of environment, it makes learning more effective. And at the workplace or in the classroom, that really is very important. Now, creating a safe environment. Let's talk about that. What are some of the things we can do within a classroom or within the whole school system? What are some of the things that our leaders or our educators can do to create that safe environment?
One, just do what you just did right there, is ask that question. How can we create a safe environment? And go individually, even if you were having a group meeting, individually, what would make this safe for you to fully participate? And what I share there, and I'll actually do this first. So why create a safe environment, especially if you want to learn? When we're in fear, the blood goes from the thinking part of our brain back to our primitive alligator, crocodile brain, and we're in fight, flight, or freeze. When we're in that, we're rarely retaining anything that's coming in. We're just looking, how do we survive? So if you're putting people in that, or you see someone that, or you're in it yourself, that's the time where you give yourself a timeout. And, let that situation relax. But how do you create safety? I say this. Are you a concrete organization or are you a net organization? And what I mean by that is if you're, whatever skill you're learning, like one of the things I teach is public speaking and communication skills, how to be a great communicator. Or if you get on the speaking trapeze, are you willing to let go to risk grabbing for that next bar, or you're not willing to do it? Or even get out on that speaking trapeze because there's concrete below you. But if there's a net below you made up of supportive people and a supportive environment where they applaud, way to take a risk, that was a great fall, even celebrate failure. One of the things, my girlfriend Vanessa, we teach improv and connection and training to caregivers at Alzheimer's San Diego. And she came up with the word arugula, a celebration of failure through a word. Arugula, we're celebrating it. So how are you creating that safety net for people to get out on that skill building trapeze and risk reaching for the second bar, landing in the net, allowing them to climb out and do it again and again and again? And you will create really powerful skill that people have built a lot of skills. You see a success at whole different levels. And I say it this way in my Speaker Skills Plus group. My motto is be willing to be bad over and over again so you can eventually be great. Now, everyone in a school knows this. What happens to people's willingness to be wrong in schools? As you get older, your willingness to be wrong tends to go down, at least publicly. You've got to change that whole thing. So even just asking questions around how do we change that, asking your people, asking your students, how do we make this safer for you? How do we make it more fun for you? Because when we're in the fun part of the brain, we're not in the fear part of our brain either. So that's a little bit about what I talk about there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That is really helpful. Now, one other thing is, especially when you look at, higher education, obviously, beside just, giving people an opportunity to reach higher levels of education and the steps toward their career, it ends up that they now graduated and they need to enter the workforce. And you have gone there, and I've gone there, and many others the same way. Today, a lot of people are fearful because you take that first job, you take that first step. There are some, anxiety associated with it. On other side of the equation, there are actual complaints that you hear from employers that they are not happy with the kind of graduates, unfortunately, they are looking at in making choices. What are some of the advice, first of all, for the students when they are looking for, that first job? And then on the other side of that, I want to ask you, because you work with all these CEOs, what are some of the things you hear? What can institutions do in better prepare the students for the workforce?
Two huge questions again. You bring the big ones. So let's look at the first one. If you're a student, and I want to tell you a little bit about me. I had this traumatic experience in 8th grade where I was to give a speech. And I'd been programmed by a TV commercial as a little kid, never let them see you sweat. And I sweat a lot. And so, the good thing is no coach ever said to me, Chris, come over here. I want you to go out there and play really hard, but don't sweat. No coach ever said that. But people on the other team would go, I don't want to guard Chris. He sweats a lot. And so I felt effective, at least in the classroom. I stood up for this speech and I poured sweat like I've never poured sweat before. It was like a monsoon rain was released and ran down my face. Face went a pure red. And in that moment, I wanted to disappear. And that moment would haunt me for over 30 years. It'd be, ha ha! And I'd do crazy things so you wouldn't see me sweat. I would buy 2 shirts exactly the same and change it out if I get given the chance. I did this, I will never do it again. I half froze a bottle of water, so it was frozen on the bottom, almost frozen on top. And when I was given a speech, I was starting to sweat. I could feel it. I put it on the back of my neck. That did work. I will do that again. But I won't do it. Just as she finished the introduction, I did this. Now I started speaking, my tongue felt numb and I couldn't pronounce my words and I got all self-conscious and I started to sweat anyway. I just want you to know this. So I'm not a professional speaker today, yet in the past, I had a fear every time I got up to speak. And I take that back to the classroom. I was not willing to fail publicly. In school, a lot of the environment in school doesn't reward you if you fail. But the real world does if you fail and learn from it. Fail and learn from it. And I'm not saying you can't learn from the failure of others. Great history books, great autobiographies, great lessons from the past. If we learn from those lessons, we'd be so much more powerful. One of the things I'd look at is you always be a continuous learner. Be open to being wrong. And I ask groups like this all the time. I like to be wrong. And if you don't believe me, put your thumb down. And most CEOs go, I don't believe you. Most employees go, I don't believe you either. And I said, I wouldn't have believed me either because I used to hate to be wrong. I hated it because, and I didn't realize this, when I was wrong on the outside, I felt wrong on the inside. I didn't know that was a connection. I clipped that cord and started to build a new program of liking to be wrong because I am still super curious. So I get to learn something new and I feel like I grow when I'm wrong. When I'm right, I'm just right. Now, I still like being right because it is kind of an ego thing, and I still have an ego about things. But I like to be wrong too, so I can tap into the wisdom of a room. And that was like taking a 200-pound backpack off my back that I could go in a speaking or a classroom and go, hey, I don't know that. Can you tell me more? And not worry about it, not make myself bad for not knowing. Now you can also do it to your fellow students. If your fellow student raises their hand and they're wrong, you don't go, ha ha, you were wrong. That happens way too much. Or, haha, even you're right, teacher's pet. Let's celebrate the curiosity around learning. Let's because it feels good to learn and grow. Create those environments and the safety net in your own head that even if you're wrong, you are still right. Right as a being is what I mean. And when I talk to groups, I say like this: I believe we're all equal in beingness. We may have different skill sets that make us better in a certain area or not as good in a certain area than other people. But if you look at others with an equal beingness, there's a power in that, an energy in that. And I like this, and I think you talk about confidence as well. I wanted an uncomparing confidence in myself, meaning I wouldn't feel like when I walked into a room that I was on trial, either in my own head or by others. And so, there's so much power in that. And then, did that answer that? And should I move on to institutions? Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And then for institutions, create that environment. And I talk about this: create an environment of inevitable success. And if you really want to supercharge that, create a playful environment of inevitable success. Because we talked about earlier, play will supercharge the way you learn things. You will learn better, you will retain more and retain longer if you bring it in play. And so create a playful environment of inevitable success, meaning super safety net, encourage the climbing up the ladder and falling down, celebrate failure because it leads to success. And here's one of the big things I talk about institutions, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, Abdi. A lot of schools are training people to go, oh, don't look at my paper. I'm in this all by myself. It's just me against the whole world in my test. Versus, hey, we're all in this together. How can we support each other rise up? Because every great organization that I've seen, rarely do they operate, hey, it's just me, it's just you, everyone's siloed. They talk about how do we unsilo people? How do we get people to work, collaborate in an engaged way? So start working together. Help your fellow classmate out. Have study groups. Get excited about, quiz each other, gamify the studying for these things. Get like-minded teachers involved to help you get better at this and make it fun so everyone actually learns the material versus, oh, I got an A, B, C, D, or F on it. What does that even matter? I may have got an A on something and I got a lot of A's because I had that critical dad. It was like an A minus, why didn't you get an A? So I got a lot of A's, but a lot of those things I don't remember. I don't own. So how can you create that safety net, that playful place of inevitable success to help people grow, celebrate the failure in your organization, work together more collaboratively? Those are just some of the things I would address with organizations.
No, thank you very much. You asked my feedback on that. Actually, when you sit down and have advisory boards with different employers, that's one of the main things they bring in, that they want professionals that they can work among each other. And they are, not only concerned about what they know today, because they know the need of customer is ever changing. And they want a team that is able to adopt and come up with the innovative ways to meet that objective. And you need a team that is comfortable to make a mistake and work as a group to come up with the right solution. And thank you for that. I definitely see that. And personally, I prefer capstone projects or elements that can lead to a portfolio for the students, that they can show actually on their interview what they have accomplished, rather than just the transcript, because you don't know what A's from one institution means compared to another. May be all over the place. But thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So the next question that I wanted to ask you is, how do you define professional mindset? If you were going to come up with a definition for it, what would be a definition for professional minds?
And what do you mean by professional?
Well, that's the question.
Okay.
How would you define a professional? And when you say a professional mindset, is a mindset of a person that called themselves a professional. So, how would you have a mindset that you can say this is really a professional mindset?
So that I'm going to go after that from a couple different angles, and one of them is this: professional. I call myself a professional speaker because I get paid to speak. Now, I created a group specifically for me called Speaker Skills Plus to gamify the growing of my own speaking skills because working on them wasn't working. I was procrastinating. So I created a gamified environment to grow my own communication skills and then invited other people to join me, and it eventually became a business that I believe one day will train all kinds of organizations how to grow their communication skills. As a professional, just looking at myself, and I'm very different than a lot of people, I'm swimming in the river of professional speaking. And occasionally I get up on the bank and sunbathe a little bit, but then I'm back in the river. And I'm usually looking to go, instead of upriver, I do upriver occasionally to work on my muscles, but a lot of going downriver with the flow of things. But I'm always consistent looking to improve my skills. So if I was hiring another professional, I'd want another professional that was looking to consistently grow their skills. And that's why I think organizations that have development plans, developing their people, are powerful. Because when we feel ourselves grow as a human being, we feel like we're gaining power, we're gaining more steps towards our own dreams. And then from a professional standpoint, also as a professional human being, I think, how do you treat yourself and how do you treat others? Now, a friend of mine, I remember way back when, was talking about the Bible in various forms, and I wondered why. Hey, the main tenets is love thy neighbor as thyself, love thy enemy as thyself, and go, why isn't that working today? And then I had an epiphany. I go, I know. We don't love ourselves. We're really hard on ourselves, so of course we're really hard on other people. And if we did, and that's for me, a safety net happened in here. I used to be my own worst enemy. I was miserable and hard on myself. Now there's a safety net that lives in my head, and I can laugh at all the foolish things I can do. And part of being a professional, like take professional athletes. If they said, oh, I've reached my skill level, I'm not going to train anymore, they'd be out of the business so fast, it'd be amazing. They're training every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. They're looking at the videotape, how they can get better. So if you're really taking your field on as a professional, what are you doing to constantly grow yourself? Who are you training around? Do you have a coach? Do you have an environment that leads to success? Do you have a great practice environment? All those things, I think, work in a professional. And then I've told people this. One thing that seems to be lacking in the world today is a complete honesty. That if I would love to hire someone that was totally trustworthy and honest, just said, hey, here, said they're going to do it and they did it, or why they couldn't do it. Because pointing what we talked about earlier, I ask this question to leaders all the time. What would it cost you if one of your employees hid a serious mistake? They buried it because you were such a hard, you know what, that they didn't dare come to you and tell you about the mistake. Instead, they buried it. They didn't take any responsible for it. They ignored it. What could it cost your organization? And I know, and I get this answer all the time, it could tip your organization over. So get excited when people tell you what the mistakes they made, because you want to know about them while you can still deal with them. So that's a long answer to a lot of stuff there.
I really appreciate it. It's very well. Everybody has their own definition for it, but it's one that I have seen really play a major role in successful people like yourself. So the next question I want to ask you is about mentors. How important mentors are, and how important have they been in your life, and how did you find those mentors? So maybe our audience can look at it, and this is not only for the students. I think we need to think about this at different levels, as faculty members, even as administrators. We do need to think about mentors? Are they important? And if they are, tell us about your personal experience and then how you find.
Yeah, I did a lot of things the hard way, but I always had mentors in some areas that wasn't even aware of, even that word. Someone that would always offer wonderful advice or share with what they might have done in a certain situation or all kinds of things. I would encourage everyone to get a mentor. And here's the cool thing, people out there, asking for help, I believe, is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. We may be programmed and don't ask for help, but successful people actually like to give back to the world. Like I said at my 20-year reunion, my mom, I wanted to be more like my mom because at that time I was more selfish. I was going, what could I get from the world? And I really started to change that to what can I give to the world as I got more successful in here, actually being less hard on myself, more successful in the outer world. So what can I give back to the world? And here's the cool thing. It feels phenomenal to give back to the world. And I was with a leader earlier today that talked, then the coaching program and positive intelligence coaching program, which is a phenomenal program. They talked about in eighth grade, and when his daughter came into kindergarten, I think it was, they had an eighth grade elder that showed the person around. And to a kindergartner, it was such a phenomenal experience to share him the ropes, a mentor of how to be a better kindergartner or how to be a better whatever. All these things are powerful that a mentor can lead to. A mentor can see into the future because they've lived it. And they can see that you're going down this wrong path, or they can see a slight adjustment you can make. And you're giving a gift back to the mentor by listening, hearing, taking on some of the actions they're suggesting, and growing as well. So I would encourage everyone to get a mentor. I have had mentors in sports, people that were better than me. I was always wanting to play with someone better. My buddy Jeff Becker, who played college tennis when I started playing tennis, he was like my tennis mentor and partner. He played with me all the time, and that's why I became so much better. In school, I hung around other smart kids to help get good at it. I'd go to my dad for math occasionally because he was really good in math, and when he was teaching math, he was actually pretty decent. He wasn't as critical of me. And then in business, I got into real estate investing. And the one mentor of mine, Ward Hannigan, phenomenal human being, he bought foreclosures at auction. And that's with all cash. And if you make a mistake, you could lose all that cash. Having a mentor is so crucial because as a beginner, there's so many things you don't see. And so I would encourage anyone that's looking at a mentor, think about who would you love to have mentor you? And they can mentor you virtually too. Reach out to the one you aspire to most. Reach out and ask them, hey, would you be willing to mentor me a little bit? And listen to what they would propose.
Thank you very much. Actually your suggestion of or explanation of how the eighth grader was mentoring a kindergarten. I have had colleagues that they talked about how they had the students from other grades mentoring the ones at the lower grades, and so on and so forth, to teach them how important mentoring is. And really throughout life, it makes a huge difference. It has made for me. I've had number of wonderful mentors, and I continue having mentors, and I don't know what to do without them. I don't have a benchmark to get excited about what I need to do. So thank you so much for that. Now, one other question that I had that is in line with that professional mindset is, if you look at your legacy, what you would want people to know about Chris. If it is something that, have you thought about? Do you work toward it, or are you waiting for some time later on to work on it? I mean, tell us a little bit about what do you think about legacy, and how should people go about creating a legacy?
Well, I'm different than I was in the past. And in the past, legacy, I think, was more important to me. Right now, the more I live in the present becomes more important to me. And I believe life is a game we're playing that you really can't lose in. And I don't like to play anymore in guilt, shame, blame, or fear in terms of motivating me, though I've been motivated by all those things. and I probably still am in many ways. Though saying that, I still have this drive in me to make as big a difference in the world as I can, to send as many positive ripples out as I possibly can, to uplift other human beings. I know the gifts of all my pains, from heartbreaks to business failures to investment failures to crashes to emotional crashes and failures, all those are gifts today. My struggle in becoming a speaker in the past, that my favorite time in speaking was when I got to sit down afterwards. But now it's during, because I'm present. And I just gave a key to one of the things to bring, the most enjoyment, the most fulfillment out of life is being fully present with the people you're with. So my hope is to touch as many hearts as I can, up and help people live more from their heart, help people care more about others, the power of relationships, to be nice to themselves. Because one guru asked me, he said this: if someone's mean to you, Chris, can you walk away from them? I said, yeah, I can walk away from them. I can even run away from them. I can ignore them. I can shut the door on them. I can do all those things. But what if you're mean to yourself? Can you get away from yourself? I've tried, but everywhere I go, there I am, even if I think I need to travel to another environment. So one of the best legacies you can give yourself is a kindness in here. Because if you were a mentor or an example for your kids, for your students, for anyone else, I would love for all the people in my life to be more kind to themselves. I would love to live that type of legacy. I'd love to live a legacy of having fun and being playful and caring about others and uplifting others. So I am moving towards that personally. And less caring about, the actual act of legacy.
Well, you're doing a very good job at it, and you're on your way
Thank
on
you.
achieving that. And I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and love with us and our audience today. Uh, do you have any message for our audience? Oh no, before that, I have one other question that I want to ask you, Chris. Now, I'm stingy. Now I got you, so I need to get as much as I can from you. So, what are in 2022 now? We have, God willing, left the virus behind us. We went through quite a bit through this pandemic. We're now moving toward a different future than we had in the past. So what are some of the things that, maybe 2, 3 things that we should be mindful of as we go forward? And what are some opportunities that we should be thinking about? Because the world is different.
The world is different and it's the same. Some people I watched in this pandemic expand, and that's what I chose to do. I chose to expand myself, and some people chose to shrink or didn't even know they were choosing to shrink, hide, collapse. And when we expand, I think is connected to love. When we shrink, it's connected to fear. And fear in the body doesn't feel near as good as love and expansion. So I would say look constantly for how you can expand in a situation. Answer a lot of questions from that. I love that in Positive Intelligence Coaching, Shirzad, who wrote Positive Intelligence Coaching, talks about sage mind is like the Jedi, clear-minded, heart-centered mindset. And that, I want to make more choices from that. So if you're out in the world, whatever your world is, make more choices, not from the fearful mind. And someone other put it, the Yaga whispering in your ear, they're all against you. They're all against you. Instead, they're all conspiring in your favor. Instead, you have a choice how you look at the world. One of my favorite games to play with people online and in person is called New Choice. And my buddy Clinton Swain introduced it to me as a change game. And I said, oh, that's a phenomenal game after my third time. First time was a struggle. Second time, there was a moment of joy. Third time, I go, wow, I love this. Now I use it as an empowering game from CEOs to other people. And every moment, you have an opportunity to make a new choice. And I remember one CEO said this: oh my gosh, when I drive and someone cuts me off, I always get mad. I didn't realize that that was a choice. And now that I realize that a choice, I can make a new choice. And I hope the new choice that people might make out there is to love themselves fully, no matter the foolish things we do, and celebrate the foolish things we do, celebrate our mistakes, make positive new choices. And in this world, if you become, because things are changing so rapidly in terms of things, but if you come down to the thing in here, and that's been here, the ancient wisdom for years, connect with other human beings. That's what gives us some of the most joy. I had a conversation with Abdi and I loved what he shared and I felt connected with him, and he has a joy and energy about him that was easy to connect with. And I go, when he said, I want to continue this connection, Chris, I said, oh yeah, I'm all in with that. So how can we better, yeah, thank you too. How can we better connect with ourselves and other human beings? And I believe that will change your world. And just know this, the what we call habits today, I love when this came to me, are just solidified choices. And you can turn up the heat a little bit and unsolidify those choices and make a new choice. So my hope is that you come more from your heart, more from love, less from fear, and you just start to make that change, consciously change that program. That's a fear choice. How can I make a love choice instead?
Well, one of my friends says, when we were talking about similar topic, he says, fear and faith are the two sides of the same coin. So every time that you are fearful about something, flip the coin and you get to the faith and you can go right forward.
I love that too. Fear and faith. There's so much power in faith. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been delightful to have you in our show. And I'm very thankful to you for spending the time and sharing your wisdom with us. And I hope we get a chance to have you again in our program. And I never get tired of talking to you. So I know our audience would love to hear you again in the future. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Abdi. Honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.